Welcome to Today in Bitcoin. We are on the road. I am doing this from Geneva, Switzerland. And without further ado, let's just get right into your stories, guys. We begin, of course, with the price drop that took place on Bitcoin right after the last show of Today in Bitcoin. And the price has dropped fairly significantly. We are down around $500 from the $4,600 area. Of course, as we all know by now, the drop came on the news out of China, and TechCrunch did report it along with a lot of other publications, in that there was a publication all in Chinese saying that things are being banned and exchanges are being banned, though immediately, well, not immediately, but soon after that, the major Chinese exchanges like BTC China have said that they haven't heard nothing from the from PBOC about it, and the news became labeled a bit as FUD. But a little more clarity on that news, also as listed in others, that China has dropped the price, like here in the Asian review. Some more clarity on the price. There was a lot of FUD in place, and some Twitter articles did help. Here's the headline that some people saw with police over at Bittrex exchange, but upon more information being provided, that was actually an old picture from 2016, and you just zoom in and you change, and you can also see in the background that it's a completely different company that this took place in. I mean, again, this is the kind of FUD that comes out of China, and people don't really realize what it is, and the price drops. This was the original report that was published, and all these links are in the description, guys. You just have to use Google Translate, and you would be able to see it. Oh, I would have to leave screen share, and if you go to Google Translate, and of course translate into your language of choice, you get a lot more information on what really happened and what dropped the market. But it specifically had to do with ICOs. China has not banned Bitcoin. China has not banned exchanges. But what China did ban was ICOs. And this was the officially translated document, which explains a lot of what's happening. And the section that people seem to panic about was this section right here, number 3, that says, management of related platforms should be strengthened. And it specifically has to do with exchanges that are trading altcoins and ICOs. They are becoming a bit problematic. And further news out of China is showing all of the delisted ICOs that are taking place on a lot of these exchanges. And you can see there are several darlings on here that have been, very popular in the ICO space, especially out of China. ICOs like Qtum and OMG, and of course, Storage has been with us for a long time. And again, if you follow this Twitter account, CN Ledger, they start to give you more information. Here's another exchange. Bambo exchange. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right. And here's another darling of the ICO space, Neo, that will also be delisted from that exchange. So these are, this is what's spooking the market right now. It was misunderstood that the exchanges would also ban Bitcoin, but that does not seem to be the case. This is just, they're just delisting all of these ICOs and all of these altcoins. And what makes it an ICO is the fact that you have a leader and you have a centrally created token, which in my opinion has always been a security, but now we are seeing it as such. Okay, moving on, we have also the big question mark actually is going to be Ethereum, because Qtum and a lot of these others were just saying that they're the next Ethereum. So what does that mean for Ethereum when it comes to China is the big question mark. We also have news out of Russia, as RT is reporting that unlike China, that's putting in a complete ban on ICOs, Russia is looking to do a little bit more of the regulation. And being in Russia recently, I can say that the ICO craze in Russia is pretty extreme. I'm sure it's almost the same as China. Now, Russia has not said that ICOs are securities and they need to be delisted like China did, but China is trying to be the next financial capital of the world. Russia really isn't. So it also makes sense that Russia isn't taking the kind of the financial regulation as seriously as China is. But it looks like Russia is looking to regulate it instead of removing unregistered financing. In additional news, we also have more talk of the ETFs, as Reuters is reporting. Even though the ETF was shut down, there's some clarity on it now. It looks like they were saying that they still saw Bitcoin as a little bit, new and a little bit uncertain, and that's for the reason. Further in the articles, they are saying they are getting lots of reports and lots of companies are questioning when the next Bitcoin ETF would be possible, and many companies are reaching out to the CBOE and the SEC and trying to see if they can be the next company to launch the next ETF. Also, news from an Overstock exec that is questioning why aren't more retailers accepting Bitcoin. And of course, it's interesting. One of the reasons that is being cited is the fact that even though the fees really aren't that big, the fees are being now absorbed by the consumer and not by the retailer. And that's one of the things that's significantly dropping. It's not the size of the fee necessarily, but the fact that the model is now flipped. What they don't mention is that if, in order for people to really like Bitcoin, we want the merchants to keep the Bitcoin. That's really some of the best ways to profit from accepting Bitcoin. And here it says today we keep 50% of the Bitcoin, but most companies don't do that. And for a lot of operations, if you are going to keep the Bitcoin, that is a lot of staff that need to be trained, not only how to accept Bitcoin, but how to make sure it stays secure. And that's not something a lot of companies are willing to invest in doing at the moment. That's pretty much it for the news. As you can see, many altcoins and ICOs are taking a significantly bigger hit than Bitcoin over the last 7 days. Bitcoin is only down 10%. Seems to be in line with Bcash, but most things like Litecoin and Dash and not Monero per se, but Ethereum Classic, IOTA, and a lot of other altcoins. Look at Neo down 30%, Qtum 15%. These were the ones that were actually delisted in China. A quick look at the Bitcoin mempool. Things seem to be pretty good. No real problems here. The latest blocks, as you can see, BW pool still has not started accepting segregated witness transactions. Segregated witness transactions are picking up. Bitcoin chain is 10% more profitable to mine than Bcash. The inflation seems to be rising at approximately the same rate. And before we get to the price of Bitcoin, we have some special guests that just jumped onto the broadcast before I went live. And without further ado, I will hand it off to our resident World Crypto Network hosts, and I'll let them take it from there.
All right, thanks, Tone. We're live from the Breaking Bitcoin conference in Paris, France. And there was a little bit of excitement this morning when JJ from Purse actually broke Bitcoin. A lot of people were curious as to whether he should have waited to break Bitcoin until all the fixes were in, but that's drama all on its own. We also had Jimmy Song, who hosted a panel about mining. Jimmy, what happened on your panel?
Well, it was very interesting. We had Alex Petrov from Bitfury. We had James Hilliard of Bit91 fame, and he runs sort of a mining company, and also Kevin, I forget his last name, but he used to work at Bitmain up until about 3 weeks ago. Anyway, one of the questions I asked them was, okay, 2x hard fork comes. Which chain are you going to mine? And the answer that was the most interesting was from Alex Petrov, and he answered that the SegWit 2x agreement, the New York agreement, was premised on there being one chain afterwards. And if that's not the case, then he doesn't feel that they need to follow that agreement, so they can mine whatever they want. And he wasn't going to commit to mining one or the other, but that seemed to be the sentiment that he gave. And if that's the case, they might not mine it.
So the agreement was, if there's one chain, we will do the 2x hard fork. But now that there are two chains, there may be a legitimate business reason for everyone involved to walk away from the SegWit 2x New York agreement and not to fulfill the 2x hard fork.
Yeah, and one thing that Alex sort of implied during his answer also was that they wanted SegWit very badly, and they were compromising with all these other people in the room, and it wasn't that many parties that were pushing for the 2x part, but they agreed to it as part of this thing to have a single chain afterwards. So if there's not a single chain and there's two chains, it does sound like they are free to go and do something else. They're not under any obligation after a split, because part of the agreement is there will be no split. But if there is a split, well then, then the agreement is null and void. So this very interesting turn of events. I seriously did not expect that answer from Alex Petrov. James Hilliard and Kevin seem to be more on the side of, well, I'll just keep mining core. So yeah, I mean, and Bitfury is definitely a signer of the New York agreement. So if that's their interpretation, it may be the interpretation of a lot of other miners.
Tone, what are your thoughts on this?
I got a couple of questions for you guys. I mean, I fully expected that answer from Bitfury and a lot of other people, as that rant I had on, I think, this program one morning, based on what Alex Petrov said to you, Jimmy, the other at a show that I wasn't on. Love the background, by the way. The Eiffel Tower in the back is great. Great job, guys. I think I made a big mistake not being there with you this weekend, and instead of I went to Oslo and Geneva. But I did get to meet the Bitcoin community in Oslo, and now I'll get to meet the Bitcoin community in Geneva here. But glad you guys are there. Hey, so my biggest question is, and this is what I've been waiting for, when is 0.15 coming out? Because I think once core 0.15 comes out, and the overwhelming community support of installing 0.015 and just cutting off 2x at the knees is gonna drive the nail into that coffin. What do you think?
Well, last I heard, it's coming out Monday, and there may be a bit more urgency given the what JJ revealed earlier. His exploit is really interesting, by the way. So apparently, it's been disclosed to everybody, and we'll see what happens. But I'm expecting Monday, which would be in about 24 hours or so, and you will now have 0.15 on the network.
And it's no doubt much more complicated than I'm going to explain, but it seemed like JJ was able to run a series of commands on a Bitcoin node, fill up the RAM, and then shut down the node. This could have potential problems for other altcoins as well that haven't been developed. There were several Bitcoin implementations that had a fix for it, but there are some that were still working on it. There's a great deal of drama in the room afterwards when Peter Todd repeatedly asked and seemed to be chastising JJ for releasing this information too quickly and before they had the fixes in place. Elizabeth Stark also said on Twitter that she had talked to JJ personally, and he said he would not reveal it, and she's one of the conference organizers, and he did reveal it. So there's a lot of upset people here at JJ.
Yeah, and then
hey guys, sorry. I lost connection for a second. You said Peter Todd was chastising him about, and then you cut out for about 20 seconds.
He was saying that he should have waited to release the vulnerability until the fixes had been in place.
Well, no, his argument was, did you reveal to all those people that you were going to reveal this vulnerability today? And he didn't really answer, but I mean,
it actually just happened again. But it sounds like he wasn't gonna. He shouldn't have revealed it until after 0.15 had been released, which it sounds like it would fix the vulnerability. And this sounds like the reason why it was delayed by a week or two to begin with, to fix this specific vulnerability.
This vulnerability was revealed apparently to Peter Wulle back about 3 months ago. He also revealed this vulnerability to the Bitcoin Cash guys, to BTCD, Bitcoin, pretty much every implementation that was affected. He figured out which ones they were, and he did reveal he disclosed the vulnerability to them months ago, and now he's now he disclosed it publicly, so it's out in the open.
But it should be fixed on Monday, based. So
yeah,
within
so
24 hours.
0.15 fixes it. It turns out that Peter Wohler has this interesting way of optimizing the database that would have fixed it anyway. But when he revealed it to Peter Wohler, obviously it was more of a priority to get it in. So it's in there. So 0.15, you could use release candidate 3 if you're especially worried. So I believe that's the one that's going to get released on Monday anyway.
All right, no, sounds good. Sounds like it was a really great conference out there, guys. We'll see where in the world it is next year. But we will be at the next Scaling Bitcoin conference, so hopefully we'll all be there.
And especially with this drama on the 2x hard fork, this is breaking news. If anyone wants to go out to Twitter and retweet this, please like and share this video. It just happened on Jimmy's mining panel. You can go to the live stream for Breaking Bitcoin. You can probably rewind and watch this panel. Some very interesting stuff going on here. This could be the end of the 2x hard fork.
Hey, one last question on the 2x hard fork. So is the reason why they're thinking of that not doing it because there is too much contention over the upcoming hard fork, or the fact that it was hard forked already and those and people that really want bigger blocks should just go over to Bcash and try to push SegWit onto that chain? Like, I'm still unclear as to the reason that Alex Petrov is giving.
I don't think there's any actual reason given. Those are just the statements that they gave. My impression is that there are some miners that are looking to get out of the New York agreement if they can.
And it sounds like, from a contractual perspective, the point of the New York agreement was to keep everyone together so there'd be one Bitcoin. Now that there's two with Bcash, that agreement's no longer valid.
Okay. So
no. It's because of the 2x hard fork. I think Alex Petrov was, you need to stay on one chain after the 2x hard fork for me to support it. That's
right. So you guys both just like you guys went in different directions there, which was my question to begin with, right? So most likely the answer is both. One, you already have another option, and two, if the 2x fork happens, it's going to be too contentious, and no one wants that.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. All right, we got to go back in and
guys.
see Amir Taki. So
yeah, you can check it out live on the Breaking Bitcoin live stream.
Bye bye, guys. And we are staying on. They do have to go and watch Amir Taki. So now we're gonna get back to talking about the price of Bitcoin. I haven't done this in a couple of days. So let's go ahead and take a look at the technicals when it comes to the Bitcoin price. All right, we're back to screen share. Here's the weekly chart of the Bitcoin price. And we're starting to pull back up a little bit. I mean, this news out of China came unexpected. It's not 100% FUD, but the way the news was displayed, the way basically there was, the news itself should not have been negative on Bitcoin. But in reality, we are dealing with China. There was a language barrier. There was this FUD barrier, as you saw from the pictures. It wasn't even a Bitcoin exchange with all the police in the building, but you change the wall, you change the image on the wall, and all of a sudden it looks like authorities have shown up at another exchange. But looking at strictly the technicals, the weekly chart remains bullish. But here's the thing. I was going to call a short-term top next week, and next week starts tomorrow. So tomorrow we get a whole new weekly candle, and that candle is going to be a 9. Now, I was hoping to see an 8 or a 9 in this kind of shape, but the news out of China have derailed that. And it's impossible to say right now from a technical perspective whether the next candle is going to be green or red, because even if we fall another $300 or $400, well, actually, if we fall a little further, we're not going to get the 9, and we're going to get a break of the 9. So next candle is going to be very interesting. We would need to stay above 4,500 in order to maintain a 9 on the next candle. If we get the 9, I'm going to be a little more bearish over the following couple of weeks. If the 9 is broken, we're going back to neutral, and there's actually a higher probability of a much larger reversal and try to catch another 9 on the weekly countdown. I think once news breaks that the 2x hard fork is very unlikely to happen, that would create huge bullish momentum for Bitcoin. So it feels like some people have lately been accusing me of being having a little bit of a bias towards being bullish Bitcoin, but you have to have a bias being bullish Bitcoin. That's why we're all here. This is why we're all invested in Bitcoin, and this is why all of us are watching Today in Bitcoin every morning, right? We're all thinking Bitcoin will go up. So you have to always think of Bitcoin with a bullish bias and be very, very careful at calling tops and calling for bear markets because they're rare and far between. So let's see what happens. Let's see how this latest news gets absorbed into the market, okay? Here's the daily chart. The daily chart isn't looking great because now we have a few too many double bottoms, and I don't like double bottoms. Now, technically, we did not trade lower intraday, and we don't know where we're going to close yet. We still have a lot of time in today's candle, and if the news from breaking Bitcoin is good, remember, there could be some fear until 0.15 gets released and fixes that vulnerability. So let's see what happens. According to this indicator, there is a short on the table. But again, I would be very, very cautious in shorting Bitcoin. The better short would have been right off the 9 and then waiting for your 1 to 4 day bounce and then higher. The higher got disrupted by this news out of China, which I still believe is Bitcoin bullish and altcoin bearish. Now, here is the 4-hour chart. We have broken below a moving average. We're on a red 5. I would actually love to see another red 9 like this. I mean, again, this was supposed to set us up for new highs, but the news out of China have derailed it. Look, you can't predict news, and you can't predict how that news is going to be released. The hourly chart isn't all that useful at the moment, so I'm not really going to talk much about it. But I will say that a lot of people are wondering if this news out of China is fake and it was able to crash Bitcoin 10% and $600 to $700 worth, and then that news was discovered to be fake, how come Bitcoin hasn't recovered to all-time highs? Sorry, guys. Now, there's a couple of things in that statement. First of all, Bitcoin has gone up from under $1,000 late last year to up to $5,000. I mean, that's an unprecedented run. Being angry that Bitcoin has fallen 10% and hasn't returned instantly is very, very and very greedy and very, very selfish. Bitcoin can fall $1,000, $2,000, and it will not break the bullish trend, okay? We are nowhere near the start of a bearish trend in Bitcoin. Here's the other thing. When that news comes out, we heard that there was a big panic seller. Someone sold 20,000 Bitcoin. There was a panic seller. When you have a panic seller, multiple things happen. First of all, the price drops and it removes a lot of the stops. It removes a lot of stops and it resets the price. Second, if that giant seller now is sitting on a lot of fiat, if he chooses not to put that fiat back into Bitcoin, someone else needs to make up for that lost value. And there hasn't been anyone trying to make up for that lost volume. This is what people have to realize. It's not as easy, oh, there was fake news and Bitcoin fell so much. Why isn't it going back up when the news is found to be fake? Well, that's because the big seller hasn't bought back. Do you have 20,000 Bitcoin worth of fiat? 20,000 Bitcoin times $4,000, and when he sold it was 4,500, right? So 4,500 times 20,000, how much money is that, right? So 4,500 times 2 is 9,000, and now you got to add about 4 zeros, right? So that's 90,000, 900,000, $9 million, right? Unless a $9 million buyer is willing to stop up, and with a market order, I might add you, right? Someone needs to stupidly market order buy $9 million worth of Bitcoin. They would, A trader with 2 cents in his brain would never do that. He would buy in maybe $500,000 chunks. Maybe he'd buy it OTC. Why would he put $9 million on a market order, hurting himself picking it up? He'd go and pick it up over the counter. Now, also don't forget the Chinese exchanges are trading at a huge discount, again, based on fear that the Chinese exchanges might be shut down, but we haven't really seen that, okay? So this has been my overall summary as to why Bitcoin has not instantly recovered, because someone has to come up and make up for that lost volume or all that selling. Other than that, from a technical perspective, once technicals start to fully turn, and if we close at a new low, if we close below $4,000, lots of technicals reset, and we could actually set off a bear trend based on technicals, where a lot of technical traders will say, hey, my technicals are now bearish, it's time for me to short Bitcoin. So there are lots of things that could go wrong with fake news that could set off a much deeper trend going short before there is some really good news that drive all these buyers in. And I think over the next week or two, when we see the fall of 2x with it getting no momentum, and core 0.15 bringing in, fixing more Bitcoin vulnerabilities, I think it'll be really, really good, okay? So to close out, I would like to talk about the travel schedule. As you saw, Jimmy and Thomas are still in France. I'm not sure where Thomas is headed next. He might stay in France and just look around. I will be speaking at a Bitcoin meetup in Geneva tomorrow night. Here is the address. The address has been posted. There's about 40 to 50 places, and the RSVP is almost full. So go ahead. There's always a couple of no-shows. I'm in Geneva tonight. I don't have any plans tonight, right? I was going to do my market analysis on my channel, but I think I just did an extended one on this show. So I'll probably do my market analysis tomorrow. I'm not going to do it today. I would like to go see Geneva. I'd like to go eat at some nice restaurant. If anyone wants to join me tonight, just reach out on Twitter, or my email is tone@protonmail.ch if you want to come to Geneva tonight and grab some dinner and drinks. After that, I'm off to Zurich, and I'll be speaking in Zurich on September 13th. After that, I'm staying in Zurich, and on September 14th, I'm speaking at Finance 2.0. From there, Thomas and myself will both be at the Blockchain Hotel in Essen, Germany, September 15th and 16th, and probably most of 17th. From there, I am off to Munich to speak at their Bitcoin meetup. The location has not yet been posted, but that would be September 19th. And after that, I will be speaking in Milan, Italy. I don't have a link for you yet. Milan, Italy, September 29th and possibly September 28th. And the week before Milan, Italy, I haven't decided yet, but London is one of my options. So I will make up my mind over the next few days. After Milan, Italy, both Thomas and myself will be in Prague and speaking at Hackers Congress, where Amir Taki will be speaking, and Adam Back and Peter Todd, I believe. So that would be a great conference. Unfortunately, it is fully sold out. I believe it's pretty much impossible at this point to get a ticket. But if you happen to be in Prague, please, you can always come out to the events. And finally, from there, I am heading straight to Los Angeles to speak at BlockCon October 10th and 11th. And very, very importantly, I will be teaching a full-day trading seminar for only $200, which is significantly lower than my 1-hour consulting rate. I will have the room for the entire day, and we will go over trading techniques and the basics of trading. So if you wanted to in person learn how to trade, I'll alter the description a little bit. This is general trading. It's not specific to Bitcoin or crypto. This is general trading education, how to read charts, how to make charts, and how to go about being a trader, okay? That's pretty much it on that. And if you guys like this show, please donate. Here is the donation address for Today in Bitcoin. So go ahead, do that. Of course, follow us, subscribe, hit the like button, and share our content. Okay, it's great to be here. Oops, once again, I am down here in Geneva. Let me just say goodbye to you guys on camera by stopping screen, and I'm gonna go get some food, walk around Geneva. Haven't really seen it yet. And if you are in Geneva, go ahead and reach out. I'll be here all day tomorrow. If anybody wants to grab lunch, I will try to do my economics show back on my YouTube channel tomorrow. I will do my best to get that out to you. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Good luck trading, and hopefully the news out of breaking Bitcoin will bring us to new highs. That 6,000 to 7,000 in September was still my target as of last week. I have not yet backed away from it. I think this China news will blow over. See you all tomorrow.